Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point. And I wanted to do this quick video for you guys on the Mann Act, how it began and why it needs to be repealed. We are still coming off the heels of the crazy verdict against R&B singer R. Kelly, who the person that was charged and is now facing life in prison is Robert Sylvester Kelly. And many of the charges against him was the Mann Act. And some people had been saying that the Mann Act was a law that was created during slavery. And then they go on and talk about the Jack Johnson verdict. And so I just wanted to bring to you guys what the Mann Act really is and to show you just how easy it is to prosecute people under it. So first we're going to go to the Cornell Law School where they talk briefly about the history of it, and then I'm going to read a portion of an article on the History Channel just to show you how easy and how misused this law is. So the Mann Act, also known as the White Slave Traffic Act of 1910, is a federal law that criminalizes the transportation of any woman or girl for the purpose of prostitution or debauchery or for any other immoral purpose. So, Slave Traffic Act of 1910, this had nothing to do with black people in slavery, because we know slavery had ended about a little under 50 years prior to this act going into place. So the act was actually in place to protect white women, okay? So the Mann Act, passed in June 1910 and named after Illinois Congressman James R. Mann, invoked the Commerce Clause to felonize the use of interstate or foreign commerce to transport women for immoral purposes. The act was aimed at prostitution, immorality, and human trafficking. Congress appointed a commission in 1907 to investigate into the problem of immigrant prostitutes. It was alleged that immigrant women were brought to America for sexual slavery and immigrant men lured American girls into prostitution or white slavery. The committees believed that no girl would ever enter into prostitution unless drugged or held captive. This led to public outrage, which eventually resulted in the enactment of the Mann Act. However, many critics note that the act ended up criminalizing many kinds of consensual sexual activity and had racist undertones. The phrase immoral purpose was broadly used to prosecute unlawful premarital, extramarital, and interracial relationships following Comenetti versus United States in 1917, where the United States Supreme Court held that illicit fornication, even when consensual, constituted an immoral purpose. It didn't matter if the woman consented, the man would be liable irrespectively. Furthermore, if the woman consented, she could be held as an accessory to the crime. So you're going to consent to have sex with somebody, and then you become an accessory to the fact. So two unmarried people having consensual sex, and they both can be prosecuted. So think of it this way. You meet somebody on a dating app. The two of you are talking for a few months, and you decide you finally want to meet in person. So you say, okay, I'll buy you a plane ticket to come and see me. The woman comes to see you. That is and the two of you have sex. that is a violation of the Mann Act, and both of you could be incarcerated. Okay. So then there was a case, United States versus Holt, 236 United States 140, 1915. The Supreme Court held that under certain circumstances, a woman could be indictable as a conspirator in her own transportation. However, in Gibardi versus United States, 287 112 in 1932, the court, while not disavowing Holt, held that a woman who merely assents to her transportation without taking a more active role in promoting it is not guilty of a substantive offense under these statutes. The court also held that such a woman cannot be charged with conspiracy, and that while the only co-conspirator is the man who transported her or caused her transportation, a conspiracy charge against him must fall also. Gibardi has been cited and followed in more recent lower court decisions. This strongly suggests that it may be difficult to sustain a prosecution against a transportee victim for the substantive offense for the conspiracy, or a conspiracy case against the sole co-conspirator who was the transporter, unless the victim was active in promoting the transportation and not merely acquiescence. So it seems like these chicks, they were promoting the transportation, right? They were co-conspirators. So it really is going to be interesting to see how the defense argues these charges on appeal. And maybe the silver lining in all of this is that once these convictions are appealed, that they may in turn set precedents and help repeal this crazy law. So, while the act was never repealed, but it was amended a few times, the most notable of which were in 1978 to address issues of child porn, and in 1986 to address the act's misuse against consensual sex by replacing the phrase "any other immoral purpose" with "any sexual activity for which any person can be charged with a criminal offense." Now tell me, what is the difference in those two statements? Because it seems like the verbiage that it was changed to makes it even easier for them to prosecute people. So in more current times, cases arising under the Mann Act, 18 United States Code Section 2421, which is what Robert Kelly was charged under, are investigated by the Federal Bureau of Investigation and are referred directly to the appropriate United States attorneys. The Child and Exploitation and Obscenity section of the Criminal Division is responsible for supervision of the Act. Sections 2421 to 2423 of the Act set forth several offenses, including the offense of knowingly transporting an individual, male or female, so they've updated it to include men, in interstate or foreign commerce or in any territory or possession of the United States for the purpose of prostitution and sexual activity, which is a criminal offense under the federal or state statute or local ordinance. Section 2423 is concerned solely with the transportation of minors under the age of 18 years and provides for an enhanced penalty. This section should generally be used when minors are victims, although the other two sections also cover minors, any individual. Now, from Section 2423 was amended on February 6,
this is the part I wanted to read. So it says in 1917, the Supreme Court upheld the conviction
number
of
95
two married California men,
on November
Drew
7,
Camenetti
1986,
and Maury Diggs, who had gone on a romantic weekend getaway with their girlfriends. So they were cheating on their wives. They went to, they took the women they were cheating with to Reno, Nevada,
by the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement
Act. Following the decision, the Mann Act was used in all types of cases. Someone was charged with violating the Mann Act for bringing a woman from one state to another in order to work as a chorus girl in a theater. Wives began using the Mann Act against girls who ran off with their husbands. The law was also used for racist purposes. Jack Johnson, heavyweight champion of the world, was prosecuted for bringing a prostitute from Pittsburgh to Chicago, but the motivation for his arrest was public outrage over his marriages to white women. The most famous prosecutions under the law were those of Charlie Chaplin in 1944 and Chuck Berry in 1959 and again in 1961, who took unmarried women across state lines for immoral purposes. Berry was convicted and spent 2 years in the prime of his musical career in jail. After Berry's conviction, the Mann Act was enforced only sparingly, but it was never repealed. It was amended in 1978 and again in 1986. Most notably, the 1986 amendments replaced the phrase "any other immoral purpose" with "any sexual activity for which any person can be charged with a criminal offense." Today, in 2021, this law needs to be repealed. It needs to be off the books, because it serves no purpose in a society that promotes sex. Everything about America promotes sex. And for that reason, if you're promoting sex and you're promoting promiscuity and you're saying that it's okay for people to be sleeping with people, the sexual revolution, you got sex and music, sex all over television, why would you allow a law like this to remain on the books? They use this law to prosecute Robert Kelly, and they use this law to get a guilty verdict because the law is so broad and it is so easy to prosecute people. And when we look at the Me Too movement, the Me Too movement is about women gaining power. But it's not about women gaining power because they're smart, because they're equally innovative, because they can do everything that men do. That's not what the Me Too movement is about. The Me Too movement is about lazy, trifling women who want power but don't want to do the work to get that power. They want to take from men. They want to take men's positions using sex allegations. They want to control the entertainment industry using sex allegations. If women are as smart as they think they are, why can't they use their intellect, not deviant intellect, but pure intellect? And I thought about this. There was an award show about 2 or 3 years ago, and this was like at the height of the Me Too movement. And this lady, she's a tall, skinny, manly looking actress. I can't remember her name, and this thought just came to me, so I didn't have this written down. But she got up and she gave a speech, and she was talking to the men in the audience. I think it was the Oscars. And she was talking to the men in the audience and basically telling them that they need to put together this financial pool to give to women so that women can start their own production companies. And I'm sitting there saying, no, women need to get their own money and start their own production company, because you can't take down men and still need men, still rely on men, and still need to take from men in order to elevate yourself and do what you want to do. And so really the Me Too movement is just a political organization to take from men and to build themselves up. And I actually did a post on Facebook a couple of years ago where I was saying how women have used sex throughout the course of history to get what they want. And that the reason white men are so blindsided by the Me Too movement is because for years they lynched black men at the accusations of women. All a white woman had to do was say, this black man looked at me the wrong way, this black man touched me, this black man spoke to me. And white men would go out and they would kill black men. We know this to be true, right? And so what's happening now is that women are using those same tactics. White women are using those same tactics on their white men to gain control. And men are just caught like deers in the headlight because they don't understand what's going on. They're thinking, oh, we created these laws, we committed these atrocities against black men to protect you, and now you're going to do that to us. And so that's why they are caught off guard. So now we get back to the Robert Kelly case and how they used the Mann Act. And I don't even understand what the whole purpose of the whole witch hunt against R. Kelly was really about, other than the Me Too movement trying to set a precedence so that they can go after other bigger fish. And so every person in the music industry, hell, in the television and movie industry, needs to be prepared. And the only way you're going to be prepared is if you launch a campaign to overthrow outdated laws like the Mann Act. And if you're not going to repeal the act totally, they definitely need to address the verbiage. And if the Mann Act is supposed to be stopping sex trafficking, then the verbiage needs to reflect that it is about sex trafficking, that it is not about anybody having sex and then somebody getting mad and say, okay, I'm going to charge you with the Mann Act because you did this to, you dated my daughter and I didn't want you to date my daughter, or you cheated with my husband and I didn't want you to cheat with my husband. Like, do you all understand how easy it is to convict somebody of this law? And in our world today, there is no place for the Mann Act. No place whatsoever when society promotes this type of behavior. And so I don't know if it's going to be easy for them to get an appeal on the conviction for the Mann Act. And I'm not even sure let me look real quick to see what the penalty is for the Mann Act. Okay, so according to findlaw.com, depending on the severity of the case, wait guys, hold on a second. I'm sorry, I am still dealing with issues with my voice. So it says, depending on the severity of the case, the criminal record of the defendant, and other factors, offenders may be sentenced to a fine and up to 10 years in prison. Other charges such as kidnapping, solicitation, etc. also could apply to the act, giving rise to a Mann Act charge. And then it says other federal statutes may be invoked for the types of offenses addressed by the Mann Act, including the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, sexual exploitation and other abuse of children, peonage, slavery and trafficking in persons, and racketeering RICO. So facing charges under the Mann Act or another state or federal law. Then they talk about getting help. So this is like a legal website. So depending on, like in most cases, in most state cases, if a person is charged with multiple crimes, those crimes run concurrent, even though they could be consecutive. But I think you're more likely to see in this case, since they were so hell-bent on getting a conviction of Robert Kelly, you may even see Judge Donnelly do consecutive sentencing, meaning that, say that the parole board says for these charges that he should only get 2 years for each charge, and there were like 9 charges of the Mann Act or something. Don't quote me on that because I don't have the indictment in front of me. So he would serve those convictions at the same time. So 2 years would just be 2 years, regardless of the number of sentences. But what Judge Ann Donnelly could do is say, no, I want those to be consecutive. So then those 2 years, and say it was 9 charges, then turn into 18 years in prison, which makes absolutely no sense after hearing the testimony. But I'm going to bring you guys my thoughts on the verdict in another video because I can feel myself getting angry all over again. So anyway, I just wanted to bring this to you guys. And yeah, I think the music industry needs to get their attorneys together. The entertainment industry needs to get their attorneys together and start working on a bill to repeal the Mann Act. And they need to do it quick, fast, and in a goddamn hurry, okay? Because I can see this thing getting out of hand, and I can see it being disproportionately done to black men. And so these rappers and all of this is going around throwing these parties. They need to watch out, because the second somebody gets upset with you, they're coming for you. And they simply use the R. Kelly case as the launch pad for what is to come down the road. And they need to get in line, get in order, and do what these women want them to do. Or they need to be prepared to fight for their lives and fight for their livelihoods, because I don't see this going away anytime soon. So that's it for me. I shall holla at you guys later. Go ahead, leave your comments below and rate the video. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.